What's up, horror fans? I'm Rob Zombie, and this is 13 Nights of Halloween on HDNET Movies. Really, I would say the movie that scared me the most was Jaws. You know, I went to it when it first came out. I think I was 10, and freaked me out, still freaks me out. That has to be number one. I'm not really sure who the top three would be. There's so many directors that I love, but three that are super important to me are Stanley Kubrick, and the reason for that is that no other director grabs an audience and forces the rhythm of their body to become the film. In 2001, there's a million science fiction movies. Only his makes you feel like you're actually in space. That's a quality that a lot of people didn't understand, so they didn't like the movie, but it's genius. And all of his films are like that. Barry Lyndon's like that, Clockwork Orange is like that. He's a complete master. Another one would be Steven Spielberg, and the reason I love Spielberg, not just because he's an incredible filmmaker, is he takes the time, say with a movie like Close Encounters, he takes the time to develop Roy Neary and his family. It's not just about spaceships and aliens. It's like we care about Terry Garr, we care about Richard Dreyfuss, we care about all that. And it's really, it could just be a drama about that family, and it would be just as good. And the third person would probably be Martin Scorsese, because yes, his movies are violent, which is great, but there's a stylizedness to the violence that's always blown me away. I saw Taxi Driver when I was pretty young, and the final scene with the overhead shot where the camera pans along all the carnage is just incredible. It wasn't just violence for the sake of violence, and Raging Bull especially, where he just turns it into this opera of violence. Just, that's why I love it. I think a movie that I wouldn't want to be part of any of the movies, but I wish I could be a fly on a wall for a lot of my favorite movies. One of them being Clockwork Orange, because having worked with Malcolm McDowell many times, I would always pick his brain about things about Stanley Kubrick, and he would tell me that every day they would change something. They would come in and shoot a scene, like the famous Singing in the Rain scene. Stanley didn't like it, so they'd scrap the whole thing. He'd come in the next day, they'd shoot it again, completely different set, different setups. He didn't like it, they'd do it again. And this would happen day after day after day. So I would really like to see somebody just be able to stand there behind the camera and watch someone work like that, because it's so unconventional. He basically had no schedule. They let him do whatever he wanted. So just to watch how the thing that you love became crafted through all those changes is really interesting. So I would love to just been a fly on the wall during the shooting of Clockwork Orange. Most of the old horror movies I love, I wouldn't want to remake, because the only reason the movies are great is the actor. It's either Bela Lugosi or Boris Karloff or Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing, and I can never see any of those movies without those actors, because whoever you put in that role, it would just be hollow. But one thing I always thought was possible was to remake The Creature from the Black Lagoon, because the creature itself in that phenomenal suit that they constructed could be exactly the same. Because the other characters around, they're great, but none of them are iconic like, you know, the other actors I mentioned. So I think Creature from the Black Lagoon would be a cool one. The question's a little weird to me, because horror business, I mean, it's just the film business to me. So I would keep that in mind. But the main thing is, it's not what you think it is. Because I'm not saying that in a bad way. Things aren't always what you think they are. Because everybody comes up to me and says, I want to be a dead body in one of your movies. I want to be this. I want to be that. And it's not as fun as it seems sometimes. And I just had that experience recently. We hired someone who wasn't playing a dead body, but once they got killed, they were there. Sometimes, and you know, you basically become like a piece of furniture, but you're alive. And the crew forgets you're there. They step over you, and you have to lay there bloody, cold, naked, whatever, for 12 hours, and nobody really has any sympathy. So before you start saying you want to do those type of things, it is a job and it is a business. It's not a party good time all the time. And I've seen a lot of people that have seemed to be enthusiastic about wanting to do it, and when you get them on set and you try to make them part of it, like 2 hours into it, they're like, man, this is too hard, I can't do this, and they freak out. So, not to be a bummer, but my advice is to really understand what it's all about. It's, you know, it's the greatest business in the world, but it's hard work. Yes, of course, all the time. I just love movies. all kinds of movies, not just horror movies. And I've had several projects over the years that I've spent a lot of time working on that just didn't happen. And you know, it's friggin' hard getting movies made, man. And sometimes when you've had success in a certain genre, for me, horror, it's easier to get the movies made. Easier, still not easy. But there's projects that I'm working on now that aren't horror that hopefully will see the light of day. One of them that's moving along right now is a movie about Groucho Marx. So hopefully that'll begin shooting next year. But who knows? Every time I think I know what the next movie is, it's never that and it's something else. So yes, I've thought about it, but you know, who knows what the hell's going on. Werewolf Women of the SS will most likely never be a feature film, but at one point there was talk, because when Grindhouse came out, as you remember, it was one part Robert Rodriguez's movie, Planet Terror, and one part Quentin's movie, Death Proof. But in the middle there were trailers, and the plan was to make every trailer into a feature film. They did it with Machete, they did it twice, and then what happened was, basically Grindhouse wasn't the success they were hoping for, so the plans were scrapped to turn the trailers into full-length movies. But I really wanted to, and I had sort of started conceptualizing where it would go from there, because I thought, you know, the world could use a good Nazi werewolf movie. But I don't think that'll ever happen. The reason I think people love horror movies is simple. They get to experience something that they don't want to experience in real life. I mean, people always say things like, oh, it's like a roller coaster ride, or it's like slowing down to look at a car accident, and it kind of is. What it is you can experience what it would be like to be murdered, to what it would be like to be chased by a homicidal maniac with a chainsaw, what it would be like to be eaten by a shark, without actually having to do any of these things, because clearly you don't want to. That is the thrill of it all. You want to see the underside of life, but from a safe distance. That's why people love horror movies. The reason I think critics are so hard on horror films, and not all critics, there have been critics in the past that have been really good about it. I really thought Siskel and Ebert were particularly good about it. They, especially with movies like Halloween, they really championed it when it came out. And I would find out about movies early on from them. And Roger Ebert was really pro Devil's Rejects, which was nice, because it's really sometimes hard to get good attention from mainstream media. But in general, it's not good attention. And the funny thing is, the movies they trash live on forever, these horror movies, because they become like, oh, the 10th anniversary, the 30th anniversary, the 40th anniversary of this and that. And most of the time, the critics' favorite movies are instantly forgotten. Like 2 weeks later, nobody cares. It could have won 10 Oscars and nobody cares. And I always equate it to rock music. People gush over pop songs that no one's going to remember next year, but then you have rock bands or metal bands that are still selling out stadiums 40 years into their career, but the media treats it like, oh yeah, whatever. So, who cares? I mean, everyone's a friggin' critic, so basically, if you're a horror fan, you don't give a crap. Well, from the films on the HDNET Movies list, the hidden gem that I recommend the most is The Devil's Rejects. Why am I going to sit here and talk about some other film? But I love The Devil's Rejects because it was just a perfect moment in my life where everything worked. Sometimes you make a movie and every day's a nightmare, nothing goes well, and sometimes you make a movie, everything falls into place perfectly. And you spend the rest of your life trying to make that happen again, and somehow it never does. So I think The Devil's Rejects is that hidden gem. Well, my years of performing and writing music, I think, informs the movies in odd ways. One of them is by always having, mounted these big tours, I'm used to having a lot of crew working for me, so because when you walk on a movie set that suddenly here's 200 people and you're in charge of everybody and they're all going to have a million questions all day long. But I've done that before with stage shows and touring and everything, it's my vision, it's my tour, it's my look that I want, so I have to answer all the... I was always used to doing that, being in charge of big crews. And the other thing with the music, I feel that I know music well, so you can tell when the director loves music. It could either be Scorsese or Tarantino, and the music really informs every scene. It's not just like, oh, they hired a music supervisor and he put these songs in, because people always say, who picks the songs? I pick every song like I pick every actor. And why? Because it's a song that I love, that I feel means something to me, that will inform the scene. Because sometimes you watch movies and you can tell, this song doesn't fit, and you can just tell. Some music supervisor said, hey, this is a really hip band right now, you should put their song in the movie, and it totally doesn't work. And you can totally tell when it does work and that's not the case. In my opinion, what makes for the ultimate Halloween flick? It's not about the jump scares or any of that stuff for me, or the gore. For me, it's the atmosphere. I mean, for me anyway. There's certain films that as soon as they come, because every year around Halloween time, I always say, it doesn't feel like Halloween this year. And as soon as a movie like Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein comes on TV, it feels like Halloween. Or even Halloween, that movie always makes it feel like Halloween, obviously. Or The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. But for me, it's just the music and the atmosphere. But that really goes back to probably like, as a kid, what you remember about Halloween, and it just immediately transports you back. It's like hearing Burl Ives sing Christmas songs. So it's really not the content for me, it's just there's some sort of undefinable atmosphere and vibe that the movie has, and that's like what to me makes for the ultimate Halloween flick. The advice I would give to an aspiring director is basically the advice I would give to an aspiring anything. You have to love what you're going to do so much that no matter how miserable it makes you, you have no intention of ever quitting. And that's really it. There's nothing else to it. I mean, I remember one time I was doing a panel with a bunch of directors. It was Stuart Gordon, Tobe Hooper, I think, and Wes Craven. And someone stood up and asked Wes Craven, what advice do you have for an aspiring writer? And he said, buy yourself a pencil and get us some paper. And everybody thought he was joking, and he wasn't. Because essentially, that's it. Just do it. Don't wait around, and certainly don't wait around waiting for someone to tell you how awesome you are or give you compliments, because no one ever will. That'll be a very long life. If you want to do something, just friggin' do it. Well, the way House of a Thousand Corpses came about is very strange. And truthfully, I don't exactly remember how it happened. What had happened was I was working for Universal Studios during their Halloween Horror Nights, and we designed a haunted attraction one year, and it was very successful. It was called the Mad World of Rob Zombie or something like that. It was based on an album. And then the following year, we were going to do it again. I thought, I want to do something different. I came up with the title, House of a Thousand Corpses. This was going to be the haunted attraction. And somehow that became, I was meeting with the theme park people, then I got into other meetings, a meeting with other executives, and this and that happened, and it became a film. But I didn't have a film in mind, I just had kind of like a cool title in mind. So then I turned it into a movie and came up with the idea, and on and on and on. And the exact path that it went, I don't really remember, it was pretty convoluted. But eventually, the second time we did do a haunted house, it was based on House of a Thousand Corpses, and we actually used the actual sets from the movie in the haunted house. So it was pretty cool. So people didn't know it at the time because the movie hadn't come out yet, but the murder ride that was featured in House of a Thousand Corpses was actually the actual set from the film that you could go through. So people were going through, and they had no idea what any of these characters were, what it was. It was just a generic haunted house. And in fact, we changed the title. It was called The Great American Nightmare, because Universal thought, oh, we can't have a haunted house that's all ages based on a forthcoming horror movie that's R-rated. So, yes, there was a movie called House of a Thousand Corpses that then made the haunted attraction from House of a Thousand Corpses get changed to Great American Nightmare, and that's the story. Well, with all my movies, the casting is always very important to me, and I just basically cast people I like. And a lot of them are from old horror movies that I've loved. I love the movie Dawn of the Dead, so that's why I cast Ken Foray. I always thought he was great. I always loved Sid Haig from, it wasn't even a horror movie, it was just from everything. It could have been from the Bond film he made, could have been from Jason Starkman, could have been from Spider Baby. I just always found him to be a very interesting actor who was always sort of relegated to the thug in the background. And I thought, why don't we bring that guy to the forefront? Sometimes there are actors that weren't even in horror movies, like Jeffrey Lewis, who I really loved from a lot of the Clint Eastwood movies he did, like High Plains Drifter, or things like Any Which Way But Loose. Sometimes there are people from TV shows. I used Lawrence Hilton Jacobs from Welcome Back, Kotter. I used Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company. So really, I like getting people that mean something to me specifically, not because they have name value or it makes the film. I hate the idea that it just seems like cameos, but they're important to me in one way or the other. And I always try, even if it's a tiny role, like someone like Steve Railsback, who everybody remembers as playing Charles Manson in Helter Skelter. He came in, played one scene as a sheriff in Devil's Rejects, and he was great. So, yeah, that's the reason why. They're just people that I've really enjoyed for one reason or another in another project, and I thought that would be great to have them on set. Well, the way I come up with the production design or the props or whatnot is it comes from the script. I write the script, and as I'm writing the script, pretty much how it's going to look is formed in my head, because by the time the script's done, the movie's already finished, but only in my head. So from there on out, what I have to do is convey the movie that I've already created in my mind to other people, like the production designer, the art director, the special effects people, the makeup department, the wardrobe department. And I work very, very closely with everybody, constantly, hair, makeup, anything, because I need every little thing to be exactly how I want it. Because there's such a specific way I want it. If someone comes in and they're wearing shoes I don't like, that changes the hair, their shirt, their belt buckle, anything in the set. I nitpick everything to death because I have an exact vision that I'm trying to accomplish. Some people love that. Some people are great to collaborate with. They've worked on every single movie I've ever done. And some people, that drives them crazy because they're used to just, oh, well, this is what I thought it should be. And I'm basically like, well, that's great, but it's my movie, so it's going to be exactly like this. So, and that's not that you're a control freak. Well, you are a control freak because you have to. That's the director's job. You are the control freak of the movie that's going on. So I love that process. It's really great. And nothing's better than when you're doing that you work with someone who can go, well, you told me this, but I was thinking maybe this, and they put a twist on it that's even better, because any good idea is always welcome. So, I mean, that's essentially the process on every film. What's up, horror fans? It's me, Rob Zombie, and I'm your host for 13 Nights of Halloween here on HDNET Movies. Starting October 19th, it's 13 nights of blood, guts, murder, and mayhem.
These people are evil, plain and simple.
HDNET Movies is giving you terrifying oldies, modern masterpieces, and cult classics.
I like Texas.
We've got 2 chilling movies each and every night, plus an all-day-long marathon on Halloween. We're kicking it off with a movie that's very special to me and my life, and it's called The Devil's Rejects.
I'm here to do the devil's work.
For the whole 13 nights, you've got me as the master of ceremonies. I've got every detail I can remember before each movie to fill you in on what's cool about it. You want death and destruction? You want psychos and killers and clowns? You got it.
Don't yell at me!
We'll sit down and enjoy them together for every bloody second. Halloween won't know what hit it. Enjoy.